Hello, ICF coaches, and welcome to the series on the new 2025 updates to the Code of Ethics for the International Coaching Federation. I'm Brighton West, and I'm very excited to be hosting the series of 7 videos. The purpose, the core values, and the commitments are covered in this video. The standards are broken into 5 different videos, and then we're going to follow up with the pledge in the final video. I'm really excited to have Lola Chetti with me today. She was one of the people who led the team that edited these standards. So Lola, thank you so much for being here.
Great. Good morning, Brighton. So as you heard, I have been one of the leaders of a code review, and I'd like to acknowledge my teammates, the other co-leaders, Kathy Liska and Jürgen Basch. And also we worked very closely with a steering committee who were our ears and eyes on the ground, because they were able to recoup, as everybody knows, for a code to be really strong, it depends on comprehensiveness, clarity, and applicability. So the steering committee made up of Sue McMahon, Gherkin Saraglu, and Carrie Dowds did an immense amount of work in recouping all the feedback.
For this first video in the series, can you give us a little bit of an overview as we start out?
A code changes every few years because it has to adapt to the needs of the moment, the needs of the environment, the needs of the world, and the needs of society. And therefore, if in a nutshell, I don't want to also simplify it, there are 2 new standards. There are 3 standards which were actually incorporated in the whole code and taken away from the applicable standards, still applicable, but through the code, and 2 of them which we found were difficult to be adjudicated upon. So they were removed. But if we go, I want to give you an overview first of this Code of Ethics for 2025. This overview, you would see the first thing that actually hits you is that there's no introduction. It's called purpose. And that's for a reason. The purpose is in line with the mission of ICF to make coaching an integral part of society. And therefore, purpose also covers the fact that the Code of Ethics now applies to all the 6 family organizations, all the members of ICF, people who represent themselves as ICF professional, but also non-members, anyone who volunteers and who is part of the ICF ecosystem, member or not, is to abide by the Code of Ethics.
Great. Thank you so much for that. But before we move on to the core values and principles, I see there are some bullet points here, and I always love bullet points. So maybe you could dig into some of those that are still in the purpose section.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing this up. So the whole Code of Ethics now serves 4 main purposes. One is to guide the ethical reflection and the ethical decision making. Secondly, it's also to guide the training of coaches, the ethical training of coaches. Thirdly, it looks at upholding the standards, the ethical standards for the whole ICF coaching community.
And the 4th is the ethical conduct review process.
Absolutely. And this is where I wanted. It's about the regulatory oversight that ICF has over members of the ICF ecosystem. And it's the independent review board, of which I'm very honored to belong for the past 5 years, that oversees any complaints that come, which are allegations of breach of the standards of the Code of Ethics.
And that really is a valuable process for bringing forth what needs to change in the code, along with working for the ICF professionals who are in the midst of the adjudication process. But let's move forward to the core values of the ICF and the ethical principles.
Absolutely. And I'm really pleased to be speaking about this. The core values go beyond being aspirational now. They are the foundation for ethical reasoning and ethical awareness. If we look at the 4 values of ICF, professionalism, humanity, equity, collaboration, all of them, and I will say it again, are integrated into the standards. There isn't a single standards in the Code of Ethics and actually the current code or the code of 2025, where we can say that, oh no, this doesn't cover this value. So the value becomes a foundation for ethical reasoning. and ethical decision making. And in order to underline the importance of values, they are in part 2 of the Code of Ethics.
Yes, so I like this. So in this, the big umbrella, I guess, of ideas, of values, and then the standards get into much more specific points. But I believe the entire code is enforceable, not just the standards. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The entire code and the values support the entire code. They are not a different part of the code. And I'd like to just give a concrete example here, Brighton. For example, if we look at standard 3.5 in the new code, standard 3.5 refers to the need to examine our own biases so that we do not discriminate. And it is therefore aligned to standard 25 of the current code. And if we look at it, it says very clearly, it's not about just examining our biases. It's also about not discriminating. So when reading the code, it's about looking at the spirit of the standard, not just the letter of the standard.
Yes, yes. I love hearing examples like that. So let's go on to the third section, which is the commitments within the ICF ecosystem.
So if we refer to the document, it says commitment, and commitment clearly states the importance of being dedicated and engaged to these principles. And these commitments relate to all of us. For me, as an ICF professional and a coach, but also to the volunteer who may not necessarily be a member of ICF. And what's important is to look at the content, the spirit of these commitments. They touch on such fundamental areas like being courageous to take ethical actions, being excellent in our professional delivery, and continuing our ethical development, continuing our ethical growth, having a profound respect for cultures. And here I will say ICF is a global institution, and it's all about the coaching mindset of we, very far from us and them. And we is infused into everything we do, how we treat people, how we resolve issues among ourselves, how we resolve issues with others as well. We also refer to the importance of power dynamics. All of us know that the moment there are two individuals, there are power dynamics, and not speaking about them doesn't make them go away. On the contrary, what we can't speak about intensifies everything. And here it's the commitment to look at power dynamics and be honest about them and to manage them so that we serve the people that we contracted to serve. And then again, these commitments refer to ethical growth, that there is an engagement to continue growing ethically as individuals and professionals. And lastly, I think we should refer to it. It's communicating in a very compassionate manner in our values, compassion and empathy when we see behavior which is not aligned to our ethical standards.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And before we wrap up this video, there is one more important point, and I think it's actually at the end of the purpose that I think we missed. So I want to make sure we go back to that before we wrap up this first video, and that is that the code applies to individuals or entities no matter what. So maybe tell us a little bit about why that's in this section.
Absolutely. So when we contract, the code we cannot contract out of our code. And it has to be informed consent, because our clients and sponsors sometimes are not aware of our ethical commitments and our ethical promises. And therefore, first, they have to be informed as well of what we are to abide by as ICF professionals. And secondly, it's saying that we cannot just exclude any part. And there's a reason. It's not because ICF wishes to be, to control. It's not about this. It's how we want to present ourselves as coaches. It's people who actually respect inclusion, respect integrity, accountability. And therefore, the standards of the code are there to guide our ethical awareness, ethical reasoning, and ethical decision making.
I really like the beginning of these aspirations, this wide umbrella, and I like the words do good instead of not do no bad. The idea of not going toes up to the line of the ethical standards, but going beyond and having this document lay out kind of the minimum basics, but also really the values and what is to be expected of the coaching community.
Absolutely. For me, when I look at the last standard in the current code and also the last standard here, which is doing good as a versus avoiding bad, for me, it is the heart of what ICF stands for, because it's about doing good. And I will here quote a giant, Albert Schweitzer, who said that ethics is no more than reverence for life. Because if we think about it, we survived and thrived human beings because we had ethics, because we actually looked out for each other even before there was a law. And that's the spirit that ICF wants to bring, that coaches are here. We will face ethical dilemmas. We will face situations where our interest may be at risk, but becoming and being an ICF coach is having this philosophy of always doing good and having this bias towards others, serving others.
Great. And this is exactly why I love working with coaches so much. ICF coaches are good people, and built into the ICF system is the need to be good people. So thank you so much, Lola, for introducing this series to us and getting us started. And next up, I've got Kate Miller, and she's going to take us into the standards number 1, the agreement for client and or sponsor engagement. So I'll see you in that video next. You'll find that one up here. Thank you so much for watching.